Can you show the other one so I can write it down? Really quick?
Yes. Sorry, the other one.
Thank you.
So looking at this first one, when you're doing the direct substitution, we do see that we get 0 over 0. So looking at this one, what strategy are we going to use for this first example?
Factor.
Factor and cancel. So when we see rationals, you probably want to factor and cancel. I'm going to factor the numerator first. So I have x and x, so that's going to be a 20 and a -9, so -5 and -4. Looking at that denominator right now, I do have this 15 minus 3x. What would I want to factor out of that one so that things can cancel from the numerator?
The -3.
The -3. There will be an example like this tomorrow, which is why I also want to review it. So by factoring out that -3, that becomes the x moves to the front, and instead of positive 15, it's going to become -5. And then we can see that it cancels. And then we can go ahead and do our direct substitution. So I have 5 minus 4 all over -3. Remember, you can leave your answers like that. That answer does not bother me at all. Most of you will simplify it, and we do get -1/3, but both of those answers would be okay. Any questions on that problem?
Yeah, so from the 15 minus 3x, I find it a little easier to not do -3, although that is faster, and then just put the negative there and then swap the 2.
Did you get the same answer I got?
Yeah, same answer.
Okay,
Just took
so
a little.
yeah, that's fine. You don't have to ever work anything out exactly like I do as long as you're doing proper math. Go ahead and try this one for me. So I wanted to give you one where you had to set it up, because I think that is what most students, if they have an issue with limits, it tends to be around there. So setting it up correctly is the first part, and then once you set it up correctly, you actually have to go back and solve it. I think this one is, so there's like two types of problems we know we have to set up. There's like the plus h problems, and then there's ones that look like this. So they give me that f of x is x plus 4, and we want to find the limit of just f of x minus the f of 3. So we need to figure out what f of 3 is, and we need to write down what f of x is. Well, what is f of x? F of x is the square root of x plus 4. What is f of 3? F of 3 we know is what happens when we plug in 3 for the x. So then I have 3 plus 4, which is the square root of 7. So it looks ugly, but we want to go ahead and try to finish this problem out. Plugging in 3, we do get 0 over 0. So what method are we going to go through in solving this problem?
Rationalize.
Rationalize. We see the square roots. That should always be your big clue. We know with rationalizing, you multiply by the conjugate, where we change the sign of the part that had the radical. Make sure you do that on the top and the bottom. I think one of the most careless mistakes is people forget to do it on the top and the bottom of the fraction. And then from there, we can just go ahead and start simplifying it. So I have the limits as x goes to 3. The denominator I'm going to go ahead and bring straight down. And then let's go ahead and multiply that numerator together. So the square root of x plus 4 times the square root of x plus 4 is just x plus 4. We have a negative times a positive, so it's going to be a negative. And then we have the square root of 7 times the square root of 7, which is just 7. Simplifying this, we're going to combine like terms. Remember, we can't cancel across plus or minus signs. X plus 4 minus 7 is just going to give you negative 3. And we can see where this is headed. The x minus 3's cancel out, just leaving a 1 in the numerator. Now we will no longer get 0 over 0, so I have that 1 in the numerator all over the square root of 7 plus the square root of 7. Again, I plugged in the 3 for x. You can just simplify that as 1 over 2 root 7. Though you could also just leave your answer ugly as 1 over the square root of 7 plus the square root of 7. I would not mark that incorrect because that is a correct numerical value.
On the quiz, do we need to make sure that we show that we plugged in and got the 0 over 0, or like if we just did it in our head? Would that be okay?
You would not have to show that you got 0 over 0. Okay. If I see work there, I will assume that is what you did.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Yeah, so when you canceled the x minus 3, it leaves behind a 1. Can you explain like why it's a 1 and not a 0?
In math, things don't cancel out to be 0. 2 divided by 2 is 1, not 0.
Okay, when would it be 0 if you cancel it out?
Things don't cancel out in that way and become 0 ever.
Okay.
I guess if you're combining terms and adding or subtracting, but never when you're dividing or multiplying.
All right.
Any other questions?
Will you take points off if we don't put like limit x plus 3, for example, or x to 3 at the bottom?
Take off, so I will take off points one time, so like I won't take it off on every problem, but you do need to be in the habit of putting the LIM in front of a problem until you've actually taken the limit and plugged in that x value. So I won't take it off on every problem, and I won't take off a full point. It'll just be half a point. And I'll basically do that once on your quiz as kind of like your reminder to do that, but I do kind of expect it to be there until you take the limit. Anything else? All right, so at this point, I am going to go ahead and let you finish up whatever homework you have. So again, I do think if you do the homework, you will be prepared for your quiz. I know people tend to be nervous before their first quiz, so I just don't want that to happen, but definitely review your homework, make sure it's complete. Again, tomorrow, a few minutes before class, you'll be able to open up Teams and you'll see a new assignment that's called Unit 1, Quiz 1, and then whatever version you're assigned. You will have the full period. Again, I did say you're kind of in the benefit of this being 6th period. I probably won't close it until about like 10 minutes after class ends. But I do need you, like if class is starting and you're unable to access the quiz, to reach out to me as soon as possible. I'm sure you saw what a mess Teams was this morning during my pre-calc quiz. So we will kind of troubleshoot if that happens again. So at this point, if you want to stay in the meeting, you're more than welcome to. I'm going to turn my camera off and just kind of minimize my screen. And as you're working, if you have questions, feel free to either enter the meeting or just unmute the microphone and ask your question. We'll go over it. If you feel more comfortable meeting one-on-one, we can also do that. Just let me know and we can go off to a different meeting and meet one-on-one. Office hours still hold today, 2 to 3:30 if you want any extra help. But I am expecting this first quiz to be pretty good, especially if you do your homework. And I do want to emphasize that again. If you've done your homework and understood the homework, you should be fine on this quiz because a lot of the questions are going to feel very similar to what you've seen on homework. If that's not a big enough hint for you, I don't know what else to say. But do your homework. Any last minute questions before I turn my camera off?
This isn't really like a math question, it's more like a format question. Like on the quiz, are we gonna have to like type our work or like can we like write it?
Oh, good question. So the quiz will be opening up into OneNote. So I will give you several options. Like if you're using your Surface, just write directly on OneNote, just like the worksheets will be. For those of you who had me last year, like the format, the style of my quiz look the same. Like you'll see the boxes and you'll see the number of points each question is worth. But you'll see that tomorrow and you can write directly on it. If you don't like writing in OneNote, different options you can do. You can just write your answers on a separate sheet of paper and upload them. Just make sure you label your numbers if you're not going to print it out. But the short answer is like, I just want a way to see your answers and your work. So whether you do that in OneNote or upload a picture of your work, it's going to be up to you. I do think working in OneNote is the easiest. It's also the easiest one for me to grade. But I care more about being able to grade your calculus and not really how you do it, if that answers your question.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys, so if you're good to go, you can leave this meeting. You can also just kind of minimize your screen and eavesdrop on any other questions that students might ask. My camera may be off, but I am sitting right here waiting for your questions to help you out as much as I can.